Hello and welcome. My name is Jenni Reuter and I work as the head of department of architecture. And it's my pleasure to have Daylight in Architecture in talk here at our campus today. I think this is one of the most beautiful daylight events in the world. This campus, if you go through to the library space, to the old architecture department, and so on. There's so many treats that you can see designed by Alvar and Aalto and other prominent architects. So this is the place to have a daylight and architecture talk. And it's my pleasure to have VELUX organizing it and with the theme of daylight. We have Samuli Miettinen from JKMM Architects as our guest today. And JKMM was established in 1998 when you won a competition, a library competition, another beautiful daylight event. And ever since, the four of you, the founding members, have been producing high quality, beautiful architecture where the most important questions in architecture are answered. And what I personally admire the most, that you have been able to both grow and mature and be consistent, even though you have grown quite big and have been working through soon 30 years with this theme. So it's my pleasure to have Samuli Miettinen here today. Welcome.
Thank you, Jenni, for your kind words, and it's really a privilege to give you a small speech about the daylight in architecture and architecture in general, and especially our works. My presentation is divided into two sections. I would say that the first one is about my thinking, mirrored with much greater thinkers, maybe I would say like that, and our design philosophy. And the second part of the lecture is considering our works and how we applied our thoughts in our works. I hope you find it interesting. And then we have a small talk afterwards, so we can deepen our thoughts together. Okay, originally this is our gang. We are 4 partners. 3 of us started to study in Tammela, and Teemu graduated from Helsinki. We started in the middle of 80s, and we were working together now nearly 40 years. So yeah, consistency is the right term. That's what you need, definitely. Here in the Venice pavilion 10 years ago. Yeah, this is our logo, and maybe it gives you a hint also about our philosophy. It represents all and one at the same time. Multiple visions growing together, shared in a spirit and joint works. Last year our practice celebrated its 25th anniversary. It's not always easy to act as one and have many ideas, but we've managed so far. Maybe that's even a beneficial thing, that we have had to balance our advantages and disadvantages together. So, about sunlight. William Turner is one of the greatest painters of the Romantic era, and he said that the sun is God. The unifying theme of his paintings, regardless of the subject, is the treatment of light. The light of the sun or moon, seen through haze or fog, reflected from clouds or storms, creates an extraordinary impression of depth. The use of complementary colors, yellow and purple, orange and blue, make the colors glow. This picture is from Tate Gallery, just took by my friend a couple of weeks ago. 2 decades after Turner's death, Claude Monet painted his work Impression Soleil Levant, Impression Sunrise in English, which gave its name to the new style, Impressionism. A bright little orange sun reflects of blue clouds and water in a misty seascape. Monet applied scientific theories about contrasting colors in his paintings. In 1888 he wrote, "Color derives its effect from opposites rather than from its own qualities. Primary colors appear brighter when contrasted with their complementary colors." The cone cells in our eyes work in bright light and sense blue, green, and red light. The idea was first presented by the British physicist Thomas Young. He showed with experiments that white light could be produced with only 3 colors: orange, red, green, and blue. The sun is a central source of life and well-being. In history, its worship has taken many forms in different cultures and religions. The daylight defines the way we exist, how we see each other and the environment. It's been and is the central force, determinant and subject of art. At the equator, the sun shines straight above. Sunlight is hot, hard and dense. Sun rays travel short way through the atmosphere. Shadows emerge under our feet. Structure or surface casts vertical shadows, and people look for the shade to protect themselves from the heat. Nordic light is soft, often diffuse, as well as shadows it casts. During midsummer, sun shines around the clock, even in southernmost Finland, and it shines horizontally and the light penetrates everywhere. In winter, it only appears for a short time, if at all. This light and absence of light defines our architecture, makes object edges round and breaks the shadows. It has defined the development of Nordic architecture. A few times I've stopped to admire the moon in the late afternoon just before sunset. It's like a spaceship from afar or a guest arriving too early at an evening party. Moonlight at night is natural light as the moon reflects the sun's brightness onto the ground. However, the light of a full moon is 400,000 times dimmer than bright sunlight during the day. The rod cells in our eyes are sensitive to even weak light, which helps us to see in the dark. Night is a time of peace and privacy. I found the city of Venice at night, where there's very little artificial light, as particularly impressive. When light reflects from the water into canals onto the facade, it feels like the buildings are alive. Walking the night streets of Venice, I felt like I was among sleeping giants, alone and yet safe. Joseph Brodsky have had same kind of experience, but he expresses it in more poetic manner. This is translation from Finnish, I've done myself. Quote from Brodsky's Watermark. The leisurely passage of the boat through the night was like a journey of a unified thought through the subconscious. On both sides, knee-deep in pitch-black water, rose the immense carved chests of dark palazzos, full of unfathomable treasures, most likely gold, judging from the dull yellow electricity that occasionally seeped through the cracks in the shutters. The overall atmosphere was mythical, more precisely cyclopean. I had stepped into the infinity that I looked at from the Stazione stairs, and now I was moving among its inhabitants along the rows of sleeping cyclops, who leaning against the black water raised and lowered their eyelids from time to time. And for this I dim the light a bit. There are huge differences in intensity in light, and even the darkest shadows there are hues, even brightness. Louis Kahn says, even a room which must be dark must have at least a crack of light to know how dark it is. As you see, the hues of light in shadow. Can the shadow be bright? Yes. The smoke hut, located in a small Karelian village on the land of Inanen's house, was bought as part of the interior of the newly completed National Museum of Finland in 1913. The smoke hut was originally built in 1836. It represents in a significant way the Finnish folk way of life and the part of the people that made up most of our country's population. The Finnish smoke hut's interior darkened to different shades of black, because in chimney-free houses the smoke of the fireplace was let out from a hole in the ceiling through the living space. At the beginning of the 19th century, a large part of Finland's rural population still lived in these chimney-free smoke huts, and in eastern Finland even at the turn of the next century. The necessary items in the hut have a beautiful hardened patina. The consistent use of wood material creates a monochromatic tone in the room. Only a little bit of natural light comes through the small window openings. The atmosphere closes in and cuts off the connection to the outside world. Because of the cold winters, the size of the wall opening was kept small. Before classes, window openings were closed with shutters. Even when windows became common, glass was quite expensive, which is why the panels were kept small. Patina and shadows are valued in Japanese culture as well. Junichiro Tanichaki's essay Praise of Shadows in Japanese originally appeared in Keizai Orai magazine. Tanichaki wistfully describes a disappearing world, the technological challenges brought by Western culture, and for example the mournful beauty of darkened silverware and the shades of shadow in the interiors of houses. He depicts the thoughtful use of natural lights in a Japanese house in a particularly beautiful way. Translation from Finnish. Our ancestors who had to live in dark rooms found beauty in the shadows and eventually used the shadows for the purposes of beauty. The beauty of a Japanese room is based purely on the variations and nuances of the shadows. There is nothing else to it. Light creeps in from the garden only dimly through the shoji, and in our opinion this indirect light is the most essential part of the charm of our apartments. Nowadays we are so numbed by electrical light that we no longer want to notice the disadvantages of excessive lighting. Perhaps we can be granted at least one mansion where we can see what happens when we turn off the electrical lights. This was from Tanijaki's small book In Praise of Shadows. And shoji is means this paper-covered curtain. Light shines through. You may have left the object on a wooden surface or newspaper in the sunlight for a very long time. When we remove it, we notice that the surface beneath the object is lighter than its surroundings. Newspapers, like wood, contain lignin, which breaks down in sunlight. This causes yellowing and darkening. A photograph is an image formed by light. In a black and white photograph, light reacts with silver halide crystals. After that, a black and white photo is created through a multi-step process. Photograph contains shadows and light. Technically, it's realized through a chemical and physical process. In the first, light affects the substance, and in the second, the image is formed with the help of optical means. According to Partes, there can be three kinds of functional relationship to a photograph: to make, to be an object, and to look at. That's acting as an operator, taking a photograph, as an object in a photograph, or as a spectator watching a photograph. Mentally, a photograph records the past, and quoting Roland Barthes again, a photograph does not tell what is no longer there, but only and with certainty what has been. The essence of a photograph is to confirm what it presents. When he wrote the thought, he couldn't imagine the development of artificial intelligence. By producing artificial truths, AI deceives us by stealing this certainty from us. The image is no longer confirming that what is represented is a physical reality. We also have three kinds of functional relationships with architecture. We are creators, objects, and experiencers. As creative architects, our designs change the reality we face and experience. Architecture is the art of existence. It should anchor us to reality and create a sense of home. Architecture is above all about the meanings tied to the physical material. They open in our interaction with our environment, our culture, and ourselves. In the background, however, there are opposing constructive and destructive forces. They manifest themselves, for example, as a commercialism that defines everything and is unable to recognize the spirit of the place. The essence of well-being is always based on the mutual interaction of people, that's culture. In architecture, light builds individuality and connection, a self in me and in us. The same daylight that varies in the different parts of the world at the same time would also be different at places next to each other. Juhani Pallasmaa has written, quote, "In impressive architectural experiences, space, matter, and time seem to merge into one dimension that permeates all consciousness. The space seems to gain more gravity, light becomes material, time stops, and silence dominates the space. We identify ourselves with this place, this space, this moment, and they become a part of our body and consciousness that is basically experiencing the self." The central function of light in architecture is to bring life to matter. Together with life, the material creates a place. A place is a special physical space and a state of mind at the same time. Architecture touches our senses everywhere and makes us feel alive. Just as we are different as personalities, so are the details of our buildings. Light differentiates and structures architecture. Architecture defines the lived space. It carries with it the radiation of light, the life lived by people and the patina of time. According to Pallasmaa, the lived state is always a combination of the external and internal state of mind, as well as actual and mental images. In the experience of the lived space, memories and dreams, values and meanings are mixed with sensory experience. A lived space is a space integrated into the experiencer's current life situation. The form of architecture is its will of existence. Architecture manifests itself in the city's atmosphere and individual buildings' ambience. As music is bound in sheet music, so is architecture in plans. As music is played with instrument, the architecture is released in the light in the building. In his plan, the architect expresses the essence of the will to exist, the spirit of the matter. In this way, an architect is more than a designer. He builds spaces for human life and doesn't just implement a matrix predefined by the client. The task of the design is to adapt to the circumstances, to create views and places for being and meeting. The task of the design is to consider the requirements of privacy and community, for example, in the heights, openings, placements, connections, materials, and details of the house. This takes its shape in the structure that light creates. Louis Kahn says, quote, "You can say the light, the giver of all presences, is the maker of a material. And the material was made to cast a shadow, and the shadow belongs to the light." The light makes the material, but in architecture, material also creates the light. The material gives the light its specific nature. The structure defines the light, its quality, quantity, austerity, intensity, density, hue, color, or direction, for example. Light is the witness and the condition of our existence. Now, few words of our own works. I understand that our architecture tends to have features of kind of reasonable monumentality. We find simple and elegant solution, consistent and unified. This haven't been conscious orientation, but has merely happened through development of our mutual architectural vision and cultural influence. We have worked together since the beginning of our studies. Every one of us had his own architectural preferences and handwriting. But intertwining has evolved within time. Louis Kahn defines monumentality quite well. He says that as a quality, a spiritual inherent in a structure which conveys the feeling of its eternity, that it cannot be added to or changed. So we agree with this definition. This monumentality has also human characteristics. It arises naturally from our culture and democracy. For Aalto, architectural form was a comprehensive human thing that arises from a person's psychophysical spiritual essence. Alvar Aalto wrote, "All public buildings must somehow be linked with the mental world. Its form must also have a content, and that content must be linked with nature, that is us, human beings." In our work, natural differences in the processing of natural lights can be observed by building type. The facades of residential, commercial, and office buildings usually have a clear grid of openings. If necessary, the theme has been modified, for example, in the case of balconies or due to the requirements of the space program. In the wide body models, light has been brought into the middle of the building, shrunk through skylights and glass roofs. With the help of indirect light, natural light can be transported to rooms through mediating spaces. Here you see the University of Arts, which is a complementary partly refurbishment project and partly new build. A new building for University of Arts in Helsinki will form the heart of the new campus that will bring together students and theatre, dance and art studies. To integrate into the surroundings, the architecture is quite archaic and rough, composed of concrete and bricks. All spaces are gathered around a triangular atrium-like central hall. This is a meeting space for students and staff, helping to build an educational community. All spaces are designed to provide a clear and open framework for learning and making of art. Raw and unfinished surfaces will leave room for art and student life. Here's a small video of each project I will show you, so you will get a glimpse of the life behind the scenes. And here you see the integration to the city structure. There's outdoor space in the roof, behind the building as well. Here's the central space. It's an example of the use of daylight in a wide-frame building where the workspaces are located on the outer edges of the block, and in the middle of them is a courtyard with skylight. The amount of light in the workspaces is regulated with the help of internal curtains, and in the central space the stairs rise towards the light, like in Piranesi's drawings. Here's another example, which is the UPI Financial Group building. The office block is just a stone's throw away from the Academy of Fine Arts. UPI Financial Group is the leading financial services group in Scandinavia, and instead of traditional high-rise office, the company preferred to create a campus-like city block consisting of several buildings. The financial sector is in the process of adopting new ways of operating. The goal was to create an architecture that would enable an operational transformation. The campus provides a flexible workplace for thousands of employees. The building's architecture takes its inspiration from Finnish nature, which is very common to our other works as well, by creating a composition of monolithic stone-clad rocks suited to a city scale. The office spaces go around the courtyard, where the common areas of the building, restaurants, conference rooms, an auditorium and a multipurpose hall are located. The facades are structured by rich placement of the windows. The skylights has high steel beams. Their shape is tapered downwards, creating the illusion of paper-thin structures. The idea behind these monumental blocks was the glacial era granite stones which the ice carried around Finland. Well, something about the public buildings. The sculpturality in public buildings is desirable from the point of view of the cityscape. The goal is to let light into the building through centrally placed openings in the shell and keep the rest of the envelope intact. In public buildings, room darkening is quite necessary. Sometimes it's possible to achieve a shadowy atmosphere that has become rare in modern architecture. Especially in museums buildings, it's even necessary to protect exhibits from direct sunlight. Here is the first example, which is a Kirkkonummi library. These are not in scale, sorry about that, they differ from each other, project to project. But Kirkkonummi is a small town near Helsinki built around its medieval stone church. Facing the church, the old city library has been transformed to create a new civic center. Although an adaptive reuse project, the library has doubled in its size and appears wholly new built. As a library of a new generation, it's no longer solely about books, but about sharing knowledge and experiences through multiple channels. Libraries have become places for learning and meetings. Finns today see libraries as well as living rooms outside their homes. At Kirkkonummi, the copper shingle-clad library has a concrete structure which wraps around the main reading hall's interior. The rhythmic post and beam membranes are left exposed and filter natural light into the space. Another more informal reading room looks up towards the church tower and gives onto 50-meter-long sheltered terrace. Some of the windows are hidden on the retracted roof terrace. Here you see that we've used also colors of black and white, contrasting to each other, changing in the edges, creating a very sharp borders between spaces. This window leads to the 50-meter-long terrace. Here you see the more diffuse light from east through this membrane wall. This was the new built park. Some detailing. And scattered windows in one space as well. Then a 20-year-old project in Viikki district, approximately 15 kilometers from the center of the Helsinki, towards northeast. It's a small church that is the central point of the area. This church is an example of how to make a community building and create a heart for sustainable urban development near central Helsinki. The church was built entirely in wood, making it one of the few modern timber churches in Finland. The choice of wooden architecture minimizes the building's carbon footprint. Its exteriors are clad in aspen shingles, mechanically split with an axe and to create a naturally water-repellent surface without using any chemicals. Modern churches have become multifunctional community buildings and venues for significant events in life, increasing the well-being of citizens. Our design combines old Finnish traditions and modern architecture with industrial manufacturing processes. Interiors, clustered columns and beams expose tectonic nature of architecture. This evokes the atmosphere of a Finnish forest. Due to the structural bracing, the wooden frame of the church allows only a few openings in the building envelope. Apertures are placed in thoughtful places, towards the landscape on the southern side of the halls, behind the apsis, to shed light on the altarpiece indirectly, and up in the vaults to illuminate the roof structures at different times of the day. Japanese-influenced lattice structures are used in main doors and interior glass walls. as you see here, between lobby and the church hall. Then the third category, open structures. This is, they are not enclose, they do not enclose a warm space within themselves, but they limit the outdoor space or are located within it. They breathe freely as open space flows through their structures. Just the first example is Huvilaranta Festival Park. Here you see the site plan and the foliage of the trees, and the project itself is underneath. Helsinki Festival is the largest arts festival in the Nordic countries, held annually in the late summer. The festival's aim is to make art accessible for all. The program features classical and world music, theatre, dance, circus and visual arts, as well as a range of urban events. And Huvilaranta is a temporary 150-meter wooden pier that is built annually for the festival. It brings together people, sounds, flavors, foliage and moonlight. The new festival park consists of a large timber panel terrace, even structures, tent pavilions, which are old, designed by Roy Manttari a few decades ago already, aluminium-clad kiosks, long wooden tables and benches, and lighting suitable for the early autumn evenings. Perhaps the most important part of all, this is the over 100-year-old protected marble foliage that acts as a parasol. To fit the architecture around and under the diverse living nature, the design work made us of a later scanned 3D point cloud model of the trees in the area. The free-form foliage could be brought digitally into the design, and modular structures and citizens fitted into the tree canopy without damaging the natural environment. The festival was just closed few weeks ago, so maybe some of you visited the place. Then another example with Tammela football stadium. You see here, between more grid-like city structure of Tammela and open city structure of Kaleva. There's an Reima Pietilä's Kaleva church, very prominent architecture as an central object of the area, and Sampola school by Timo Penttilä. So our stadium formed like a third point of triangle into this place. But it's of a different nature. It's more hidden on the other hand and more open on the other hand. It's the Finland's first hybrid football stadium, and it's been eagerly anticipated in the city of Tampere and was completed in spring this year. It is part of nearly 50,000 square meter hybrid block complementing the urban structure, and consists of 8 interconnected plots, including the stadium, residential buildings, a commercial center and parking. It provides high-quality facilities for both citizens' sports activities and top-level football experiences. Every seating position in the stadium offers an unobstructed view of the entire field. Architecture is based on structural forms of tectonics of steel construction. The pitch is positioned in a north-south direction, neutrally exposed to the evening sun. Curved canopies allow daylight to shine onto the field, and the north side schoolyard. The glass wall structures of the hanging end canopies are flexible against the forces of wind and snow. Then the fourth category, and the final one I will present, is the underground spaces lit from above. That's an interesting building typology. The structures that are dug underground, their ceiling lanterns are part of a public outdoor space, market or park. In Helsinki, bedrock that is billions of years old is often close to the Earth's surface. Digging underground is quite inexpensive and a reasonable solution in the environments of listed buildings especially. First one is the Amos Rex Museum, very center of Helsinki. You may have visited. Amos Rex is a new art museum and the project consists of two parts. A new subterranean museum and the renovation of a 1930s listed building, Lasipalatsi. Amos Rex rethinks the urban park as part of our museum experience. Its structure is built with large concrete domes. This principle is very functional for museum use. It allows long column-free spaces and flexible exhibition spaces. The domes contain skylights that introduce natural light into the galleries below, as well as carefully selected views of life above. At street level, a new urban square has been created with a unique identity. The domes form an undulating landscape for people to enjoy, especially children or youngsters. The Lasipalatsi building was restored, respecting its valuable 1930s functionalist era interiors and details. This is from the opening exhibition. You saw that the skylights were shut, the whole exhibition was dimmed. And here's how it's used during everyday life as part of the summer or winter. During the winter, people snow on those. And the final project is the new National Museum extension and refurbishment of the old museum, which our design consists the glass-roofed northern interior courtyard and part of the northern part of the building. The National Museum of Finland is in the heart of Helsinki, next to the Parliament House and opposite to Alvar Aalto's Finlandia Hall. The existing building is considered a National Romantic style masterpiece. And in 2019 we won the International Architecture competition for the annex. Our motto was called Atlas. And in 2027, nearly 120-year-old main building will be accompanied by this new underground annex. Above the ground there will be a year-round public garden, and the defining feature of the design is a monumental structure that forms the main entrance to the museum with its monolithic cantilevered ceramic-clad roof and curved glass windows. Underneath, the spaces are sculpted into the earth with a generous stepped lobby, leading the visitors into the museum. The architecture is simple, universal, and even primeval in its concept. The new annex of the National Museum will transform the museum into a modern landmark to house Helsinki's largest exhibition spaces. This small animation shows you how People are conveyed from new part to the old one and vice versa. And the glass roof northern courtyard and how you enter underneath the ground level to the new spaces that compose 90% of the room program. Only restaurant is and the part of the lobby is above the ground. The construction is on its way. Now 1 year already behind us, but 2 years to go. And you are the first ones maybe to see this small video by Tapio Snellman. He's studying Helsinki's underground structures. So this is just a few weeks old video and shows you the construction sites topic action. The service elevator goes nearly 30 meters down to the car parking and service yard. So finally, I will give the floor to the photographer, because what he has written also applies well to the architecture. And he is Henri Cartier-Bresson, who states that to take photographs means to recognize both the fact itself and the rigorous organization of visually perceived forms that give it meaning. It's putting one's head, one's eye, and one's heart on the same axis. Thank you very much.
Amazing. You have been working with so many beautiful projects, and so many beautiful projects you had to leave out. I was just thinking, and now to see them one after each other, it's like breathtaking and somehow make me admire your collaboration with the whole team and the whole group of some 100 of architects and interior architects in the group. Are there any questions from the audience?
That's a very good question, and there could be one lecture even of that issue to clear it out. The old museum is it's kind of eclectic architecture's example. It's composed out of geometrical pieces like classical architecture usually is, and syncretistically combining different styles as well. This new annex is more dense materiality in these geometrical forms. So it's bringing more geometrical forms into this unity. And it continues when you go inside, as you saw, that there are also rectangular forms and very dense material articulation in those. as well. So we have like it's like a cave where we have extracted the masses away, and that comes from the fact that the inner space, starting from the old lobby downwards through the glass covered courtyard space and into the above, underneath the ground. So is the space that forms the continuation between old and new. So it merges together all the spaces. So it's like found from inside out, not only as an image, as a Temppeli Aukio church. It's just like one. It emerges outside like this, but it grows from inside actually. So that's like the idea behind it, and yeah, there is, of course, visually this is the most important features that emerge. So there is this canopy, bowl-like canopy, and the opening in the old wall, but it's just a part of the philosophy, and I would say it's like very simplistic architecture in that way, that it's like our world that you see from downwards up, and it raises a question that where do our values stand on? And the surface is covered by ceramic plates that has certain forms, and there's a heart and a kind of and a cross and a rotor like form, and it's very linear geometry, but it's measured through or dimensioned through the center points of the kind of flowers composed by 3 hearts. So this kind of symbolism in it as well. I don't know if I could explain it clearly enough, but okay, but these are like the ideas behind it. So it's not like only one image or one form building, but there's much underneath it or in it.
Thank you, Samuli. We will wait for 27 to see it live. And somehow this was an open competition, as many others that you have won. And I think you started your collaboration with the Turku Library, that also was an open competition and next to a prominent building. And I see that this architecturally it has some similarities, but also the fact that you're still taking part in open competitions that some of the big offices don't do anymore because they think they have no chance. But you're, even though it's anonymous, they chose you because you kind of have the knowledge and still the vision of something new for the place. Any other questions from the audience?
The one that is currently on the table. It's always like that. We are trying to look forward, always look forward. But we'd like to be involved in our previous works as well, so that how they are maintained, and we are really anxious to see that they are part of the people's everyday life. That would be great. So, I don't know, be ambitious and honest to yourself. Think of yourself as well, grow together with your ideas, and be patient and try, but focus always on the core ideas you are handling with, and architecture is it grows organically as we people grow old, so our ideas and design abilities grow within us. So be patient, but also ambitious. Yeah. Yeah, architecture is art of long spans and temporally long phases you have to deal with. So we don't read that much social media and opinions, but we'd like to take into account our clients' needs and like to hear a lot of users' needs, but we try to give them back like the real thing they need, not only what they say they want, because many times they're not able to formalize what they want. And so also in this kind of cooperation, we should be really patient and give the process time to distill the real issues out of it. And when the buildings get ready, I think usually you should give from 1 year to 3 years time for the users to notice which kind of issues need to be improved, and not be too hasteful to just change things that been designed in cooperation with them. So this is the way we'd like to handle things, but it differs because it's all about people. It's how the personal chemistry works and how the team spirit works and so on. It's very different. Also, up to if the organization is public or private, there's lots of differences, and how it's run, how it's directed. Is there any fear in the organization, or is it open and democratic and so on? And do they listen as well as we like to do? So it's all about people. Well, yeah, the museum buildings are such that you saw the Amos Rex, for example, where everything was muted and there's like total silence considering the natural light. And also the exhibition spaces of this new National Museum will be without the natural light at all. Only through the entrance you'll see a very tiny shine of natural light. So yeah, maybe not that much, for example, like in Leverent's churches in Björkhagen or Klippan, which could have been like remarkable examples of that kind of genre. So no, we don't have that, but that was intentional in the church project I showed you. But it's actually amazing that how little windows you should allow to make that happen. So that's something I would like to study in some future projects. But that's a good point.
You have long projects and you have a big office. Is there any place for accidents or coincidences within the process?
Yeah, definitely in a larger or smaller scale, there's always coincidences, and we have to react on technical or financial or functional changes of the brief, for sure. And something might go wrong with the building site as well, or something will emerge, definitely. But the most important thing is to keep the focus on the big picture and the main idea. And under it, you are then able to make changes. And they sometimes even make the final result better. For example, I showed you the Tammela Stadium case. So the finance, the budget was exceeded 50% because of the pandemic and the war in Ukraine. We have to reduce. So just to keep in mind that that what is like the focus, and so it. The solidity and the simplicity of the materiality was then which guided us. So we took off many building parts and diminished the articulation. So if of course it was lucky that the city of Tampere was so good client that they gave, but of course they had to give the rest of the budget, but still that's like one major driving thing is the budget and the financial current situation of each time that drives. But of course there are smaller things as well. For example, in Turku Library we found a archaeological site in the middle of the yard, and we took it and enlightened it and make like one object out of it and something like that. But sometimes they of course impact a lot to the basic geometry and the functioning. But that's good client and I think good cooperation with other designers. We understand that now we make something that could make this even better and even cheaper and more functional as well. So it's always a possibility. It's not a crisis, it's always a possibility.
Yeah, and to be open to those surprises and make them happen and even gives place to them, that you see that there's another opportunity is always, I think that's kind of the key of being creative, really creative, to be able to see that now there's an opportunity that will move this project to another direction, and we are open for it.
Yeah, creativity, that's the issue, but you need, every stakeholder of the project needs to have this creativity and cooperation, then you manage.
Yeah, and often when you are a bit stressed, then it's more difficult to be creative, but that's a very important, and I'm sure that's one of the keys to your success in your office. There's still one question there.
We have a tradition, we have a modern heritage, and because we have been quite poor country, so we now have a different position, but we have learned that imagination is something when creatively used, you are able to create purpose and meanings, though you are lack of resources. So I would say that's I think the tradition and some kind of freedom and courage, which is grown from the kind of joy of life or acceptance. Though we have had hard times, we've always, this is of course, in ideal situation, helped each other to survive from the hard times. This should be remembered. So we now have better times and welfare society, but still, that's my insight of this. But I don't know. You may ask Jenni, for example, the same question. I would like to actually hear. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if we have time, but yeah, I think we are at the moment in a situation where we are looking for our voice quite a lot more than earlier years. And I hope, and your office is one of those that are kind of finding it more. And we have had eras with, of course, Alvaro Naino, Aalto, and Reima, Raeli, Pietilä, and so on. But I think at the moment we are more searching, and I think that to be able to, in the future as well, be an important voice in the architecture field, I think that we should switch our thinking as well, as most of the architects should do for looking to the future, also kind of being resource-wise in another way than we are today. So that's to be the forerunners in the future. That's the answer, I think. But combined with just the basics of architecture to create spaces that are good for your health to move in and live in and maintain. So a bit larger question, but I don't agree that at the moment that we are one of the forerunners. I think at the moment we are a bit in the background, and we are kind of looking for our role, and I hope that we will find our voice in. And in the audience now we have mostly first-year students of architecture, landscape architecture, and interior architecture, and I will end by the last questions of today. And I know that you have some of your partners, new partners in your office are interior architects, and I think that one of the reasons for your success in your projects is also the collaboration between landscape, interior, and architecture, that you don't see the border. Can you tell a bit about how you deal with this core of your architecture, that you don't make a border between inside and outside and interior and architecture?
Yeah, and art as well in its every form. We are carrying tradition, and we've noticed when we were working in older colleagues' offices that when integrating different disciplines within architectural design, we were able to achieve higher quality and more consistency of the work. So of course we are attempting to create Gesamtkunstwerk, and by having interior architects within our own practice, there's a huge help, and they are also discussing a lot with the users. By that we are able to achieve the targets of ourselves and clients in an easier way, I would say like that. But architecture from its origins has been like the platform for all the arts and craftsmanship as well. So I think architecture should work as this kind of unifying umbrella for the. Nothing has changed in its history, and yeah, and it's much more fun to work with that kind of project, which involves different points of views to the whole. So I don't know. We just want to approach the project like that, and that has carried, I think, us and we achieved even better results by using this kind of collaboration.
Yeah, and I think you have succeeded in transmitting that fun to the users, and that's perhaps one of the keys again to why you feel in the buildings designed by your office you have a feeling of freedom. It's somehow the playfulness and the serenity combined is there, and that's why you have found something essential in your buildings. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.